I'm regularly asked about deep buttoning, and deep buttoning is where you've got a diamond in the fabric with buttons on each corner, and then people are confused how to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you from start to finish how to actually do it. It's not the easiest of jobs, and this particular one is even harder in the fact that it's in leather. And these ones have been done on boards, and they're for panels in a door, so I'm going to do 2 of these. And I'll show you the basic tools that you'll need as well. So what you're going to need to do this is you're going to need a yardstick, a pencil and a marker pen for marking out your board. This is a needle I use for putting the pleats in the fabric or the leather. Because I'm going onto a board, I can staple where the button's going to go first, rather than if I was doing a sofa or something I would have to just button it. This time I can staple it. I've got a hole drill. I use that for the foam. I'll explain to you when I come to do the foam about that, and a pair of shears obviously for cutting off when you've finished. So starting off with the board, this board is going to go on the door like that, and then there's another one that goes above it. Now with the diamonds I have a preference of 7" by 5". To me, aesthetically that just looks nice, and that's the way I always try to do them. So obviously with a board like this you're governed by the size of the board, so if the size of the diamond's not going to fit, then obviously the size of the diamond needs altering. So I've just worked something out quickly on here in pencil so that I could see, and it does actually work. The other thing we're working these out is whether you actually start with a diamond in the middle or whether you start with a diamond either side. I always preferred it with one in the middle. So the easiest way to do this now is if you measure half the width of the board, line up the centre, then I know that these diamonds are going to be 5". So if you do line 2.5 and 5, 2.5 and 5, so that's what we've got there, lines going up and down it. So now if I mark the centre, 13, then measure my diamond up and down, which is 7. So I've now got 2 fixed points. So that there, I know exactly is where my first 2 buttons are going to go. So what you're going to have is a series of dots up these 2 lines. Come across to this other one here, and this will all make sense in a minute. So what I've got now, I've got a centre line, 5" apart, these lines. So now if I join these dots together, so you can see there where the diamonds start to work out. So what I need to do now is everywhere these are, I need to drill a hole in these. So I'll do that now. I'll go and drill these holes and then I can show you what to do next. I've chose a drill for putting in these holes here, big enough for my needle to go through. So when I'm going to button this, there's two different buttons I could have used on this. I could have used one with a prong on it, which is a metal prong and opens out at the back. But because these are going to go flush against the door, it's going to be too bulky on the back. So I'm going to put these on with twine, so the button's going to have a loop on it. So this drill's big enough for me to pull my needle through, and the loop of the button to go through the hole as well. On the back of the board, because this board is actually going to be fitted to a door and it needs to be as flush as possible, and I'm going to have the bulk of the leather on there, but I don't want things like this on here. It's where the drill's gone through. Because it's MDF, it doesn't drill through cleanly like wood. So all I'm doing is just going over it with this foam. The foam I'm using for deep buttoning is 2-inch. I always tend to go for 2-inch, it's preferable. I wouldn't go for anything less. I mean, I've seen people do it with 1-inch, but you don't get the pleats the same and the depth of the buttons. So I've gone for 2-inch. Also, you don't want a foam that's too soft, because when you try to create your pleats and pull your buttons in, all it does is squash the foam and not give you a nice shape. So I've gone for a 2-inch, fairly firm density. So what I'm going to do with this now is, I've got the board, just going to hold the board up there, and this is just a spray glue. I'm going to cut this flush with the wood. So this is the machine I'm going to use. It's a band knife, and what it's got is it's got this thing. It's a blade, and it's got a sharp edge on one side, like a Stanley blade on one side. This blade itself's 14 foot long. So that's 14 foot long, and it runs round a pulley, or several pulleys. So I'll show you how I cut this now. I'm going to, like I say, I'm going to cut along the edge of the wood. Right, board's glued, cut to the foam, so that's all on now. You may be wondering now how those diamonds on that side translate to the foam on this side. And I'm not going to mark them out, but what I need is a hole enough to allow all the bulk of the leather to go into the hole. Otherwise, you're not going to get the pleats in it and you're not going to get the button in it. So, I'll show you what to do. This is that needle I had before. I use that end for doing the pleats on the leather or the fabric when I'm buttoning. And that end there, which is snapped off, is ideal for this job here. I'll show you what I do. So, got holes on the back on the board. And I poke my needle through. That's it, simple as that. Like that. And I'll show you what happens on the other side. So as I poke my needle through, it creates that. As long as you push the needle through straight, then you're fine. If you start putting it through at an angle, then you're going to end up with lopsided diamonds. Next thing I need is a drill. That's just a core drill, this. But if you look at it, the teeth point in one direction. So if I do the drill that way, forward like that, those teeth are going that way. If you do that, you're just going to rip the foam to shreds. So if you do it in reverse, I'll show you what happens here now. So where those, I call these worms, where these have come through here, you can actually see a hole. If I pull that off there, you see a hole where the needle came through. So with the drill in reverse, won't move, it'll just grip to the foam. So you need something over the top of that. So get a piece of this, which is Dacron or polyester wadding. Fortunately that's an offcut and it's just the right size. So literally place it over there. Now this stuff you've got to cut in one direction and it'll rip in the other direction. So this will rip down there, but you'll have to cut it the other way. cover the foam with that. Now for the holes, you can't button through that because that's over the top of it, so get a finger, poke it through, get the other finger, and that's the way I do it, and end up with 3 fingers in there and just twist it. Is the button and the fabric goes into those holes, and the idea of drilling the holes in the foam is to allow the pleats and the bulk of fabric to go into there. Right, so now I've got the holes in that. Normally you would get a piece of fabric and you'd have to measure or guess how big your fabric is, and you have to allow loads of extra when you're working with deep buttoning. So it's even harder with leather because I've not got any fixed sort of size. So what I've got is this piece of leather. So I've got full hide here, and this bit that comes off the side of it, what I've done is I've drawn a line up the middle of it, because when I'm deep buttoning, what I like to do is, some people will start from one side and work across. I prefer to work from the middle out both directions. So what I've done is I've drawn a line down the middle of the leather that allows me enough on either side. So just roughly get it in position, put my line down the centre line of buttons. So that's going down the centre row of buttons there. Now because we're going onto a board, as I said before, it makes life a little bit easier. So with this now, get a buttonhole on the centre line, near the middle, and sort of work the leather into that hole. And you've got your finger inside it, staple gun. So that is where the button will end up. So now, come across this way now. So with this, when you're deep buttoning, it's all about tension. You don't want that too tight where you're actually flattening that, but you don't want it loose where you can't get these pleats. And what should happen is, these pleats should actually create themselves as you're going along. So I'm still working with all the rest of this hide attached to here, which I will cut off in a bit, but not until I've got my buttons in or stapled in. So now you can actually start to see something happening. I've got a row there. So now, again, working in the middle, pull this in the centre, work the leather down, staple in there. I've got all this stapled off now, and the beauty of working onto a board is the fact that I can staple inside here. Normally what I would do is pull the button in there, but now I can put the staple in there and work on this. So what I need to do is, you can see the diamond shapes taking effect. What I need to do now is, you can see here these pleats. See that one there? It's not very tidy, it's a bit of a mess. A lot of people leave these like this, and I don't know how or why they would do that. Look, just when you've got something like that, why would you leave it like that? So I need to sort the pleats out. What I like to do, and again it's only a personal preference, is on something like this I like to run the pleats all in the same direction. So to do it, if you get this, I'll pick this one because it's the worst one. if you get hold of the leather or the fabric, whichever you're doing, tuck it underneath. Don't be scared of pulling it. And when you've got it, this is what this needle's for. Run it underneath the pleat. So that's that one done. So what I'm going to do now is work on all these and make sure they're all facing the same direction and they're all nice and tidy. So I'll do this middle one here, and then you can see one completely done. So that's that middle one done there. So that's completely done with all the pleats. So what I need to do now is finish doing them pleats, and then I'll go and make some buttons and get the buttons in there. I've finished all the pleats on this now. I've got most of the buttons in. I'm going to put another couple of buttons here and just show you how to finish this off. So what I'm going to do with this piece here is obviously got the staples in here to hold the pleats in place. So all I'm going to do now is just create a bit of a pleat there. That's not going to be held in place at the moment, so I'm just creating that so I know what's going on. Put the needle through the hole. I've got this stuff. This is nylon buttoning twine. That you really have to use the correct one for this, otherwise it will break. Button on there. Thread the needle and pull it through. I'll do the same again on this one here. So basically create pleat, a needle in, get some twine, so now those buttons are there. Turn this over. I'm just pressing the button with my finger on the other side, pulling it tight. Now the reason I've stapled that like that, if you staple in a straight line, there's always a chance that that twine could run through under the staples. By folding it back on itself, it more or less locks itself there. Right, so finish this now down the sides. Get hold of this bit in the middle here. Just pull it so it looks right there. Staple in. Same on this one here. So I'm just putting a staple right in the centre here in the middle of this bit. And with this now, tidy the pleat up. Now work the one that's underneath the pleat sideways towards it. So I've just worked the excess leather underneath that pleat. Now the one on the top, and that's how that works. And I'm just going to do that all the way around the sides now, and that's it finished. I've almost finished this now. I've just got this last little bit to do here. So I'm going to do just going to finish this, and then I can trim it off. So now that's all stapled, just going to trim this off. So that's that finished there.